Thunder Bay gets more money to tackle homelessness. Federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh makes a stop in the city. And the WHO ends the COVID-19 global emergency. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Ontario government has announced nearly $11 million in extra annual funding for homelessness prevention in the Thunder Bay District. Local MPP Kevin Holland made the announcement this morning at the Thunder Bay District Social Services Board headquarters. Jessa Clement joins us live in studio with the details. Jessa.
Thanks, Ryan. The additional funding will nearly triple the homelessness prevention program funds allocated to the DSAB, bringing the annual total to just over $6.5 million. The boost is expected to largely support new supportive housing projects, which the DSAB has identified as one of the most pressing needs in the area. The funding increase answers years of calls from local leaders and social service agencies for the provincial and federal governments to step up with more housing dollars and other homelessness supports. The funding expansion is a 197% increase, which will remain in place for at least 3 years. MPP Kevin Holland says the large amount of funding was a result of years of advocacy by the DSAB and city leaders.
I really can't put into words how big of a deal this actually is for Thunder Bay and the district. The increase in funding to address the homelessness problem that we're facing across the district. This increase in funding is going to just move mountains in getting that accomplished for our region.
DSAB CAO Bill Bradica called the funding increase historic and says the organization would look to invest much of the increase to build supportive housing, including in district communities outside of Thunder Bay.
At a minimum, we think there's a need for at least 250 units of transitional supportive housing, possibly more. There's more than 750 people on the by names list who are either homeless or accessing homeless prevention type services. So there's significant need for this, and this will significantly help with that.
Mayor Ken Boschkoff, who also serves as DSAB chair, says the funding will allow the community to help more people.
The real tools are having the financial resources to build the housing stock. We are talking about homelessness. The answer is more proper housing with dignity for people, and this is a deliverable that we're very proud that is happening in Thunder Bay right away. And the fact that everybody agrees that this is the answer, it's great to see.
Jessa Clement, TBT News.
The leader of the federal NDP made a trip to Thunder Bay today. Jagmeet Singh met with local union heads to talk about affordability and the difficulties faced by workers here in the Northwest. And he made a pledge to healthcare workers and those in other sectors that they'll be supported by his party. Vasilios Bellows reports.
It was federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's first visit to the city since last September. His first stop was at the local OPSU office, speaking to local union heads about cost of living for workers amidst increasingly concerning inflation.
Clear that the Conservative government here in Ontario does not respect these workers. The federal government's got to step up.
The healthcare sector quickly became the focus of the discussion, with those around the table stressing issues of wages, long hours, and violence towards workers. Singh explained some of the ways he plans to push for change at the federal level.
At our staffing level, so the right number of workers per patient or client in a long-term care home, that would actually alleviate some of the burdens. And making sure that we are hiring, our public healthcare system is giving support, not doubling down on agency or for-profit work, which is only going to make things worse for these healthcare workers.
St. Joseph's Care Group bargaining president Cheryl Bachmer was one of the union representatives at the roundtable discussion and is hopeful the leader will bring these concerns back to Ottawa.
Implementing any of these will just really improve healthcare. It will improve the community. It will improve the surrounding communities and the outlying communities. It will just benefit overall.
During the meeting, Singh was joined by Yuksum Wan, who just this week was nominated as the NDP's federal candidate for Thunder Bay Rainy River. This is Wan's third time representing the party at a federal level, and she's confident the experience will allow her to hit the ground running.
continue the relationships and the bridges that I've started building in past elections, and to really make sure that I am aware of the issues connected with the people and I'm able to represent them.
Fight really hard to make sure the people of Thunder Bay, Rainy River know that they deserve better. They can have someone that's going to fight for them.
Singh concluded his day at Westgate High School, taking questions from students and staff on a number of topics. That included his path to politics, as well as NDP stances on issues such as post-secondary student supports and affordability. Vasilios Bellows, TBT News.
A trial date has now been set for the teenage girl charged with the murder of 14-year-old Kaylee Ival in April of 2020. Ival's body was found in a wooded area on the city's north side. 2 people were later arrested by city police and charged with first-degree murder. Ival's friends and family have been attending the court proceedings, calling for justice in the case. One of the suspects, 24-year-old Jarrett Senawap, pleaded guilty in 2021 to the lesser charge of accessory after the fact to murder and was sentenced to 3 years in jail. The prime suspect was a 14-year-old girl at the time, who's now 17. Her first-degree murder trial is expected to begin next April 15th and is scheduled for 10 days. Thunder Bay Police have now made a second arrest in connection with that dramatic shootout in Westfort on Tuesday. 36-year-old Desiree Barber is facing 1 count of attempted murder using a firearm. 2 other suspects are still at large. And officials with the city and the DSAB are now weighing in on the shocking incident, which occurred at a social housing facility. Jonathan Wilson has the story.
Well, it's horrific, and it's not tolerable, and I appreciate the police response, and we as a community have to really rally together to understand just how serious this is. This is an escalation that's got to be stopped in its tracks.
Quite upset about criminal activity like that happening at one of our properties.
DSAB Administrator Bill Bradica says although the shootout occurred on one of their properties, he insists this is a criminal matter which city police are dealing with. 20-year-old Iverson Thomas from Toronto was arrested the day it occurred, and 36-year-old Desiree Barber of Thunder Bay is now in custody for attempted murder as well. 2 other suspects remain at large, and police have released surveillance images of them taken from cameras inside Spence Court. The DSAB has faced criticism in recent years for the drug activity happening inside that building.
Many people think that there are things that we can do to prevent something like that from happening, but this is a Residential Tenancies Act covered building. People have leases. It is their home. They can have guests in their units. We cannot prevent people from inviting people into their units.
City police and other local officials have been calling on the federal and provincial governments to provide more funding to battle guns and gangs in Thunder Bay. MPP Kevin Holland says he wants to sit down with new Police Chief Darcy Fleury to discuss the issue so his government could put an effective plan in place for Thunder Bay.
I've had opportunity to have many conversations with the acting chief, Dan Taddeo, and I'm very much looking forward to sitting down with the new police chief and assess the situation in Thunder Bay. And our government will continue to provide whatever supports we can as they deem necessary.
Well, you couldn't have more evidence of guns and gangs in peaceful neighborhoods and the need for more funding. It will give us literally the backup to ensure that our case is heard and addressed, and I'm sure it will be.
Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
A group of area residents continues to oppose the Waasigan transmission line despite claims from Hydro One that none of them will be displaced from their homes. Hydro One's announcement this week that the multi-million-dollar contract has been awarded has only solidified the dissent among the Neighbors on the Line group. As Carl Langdon tells us, they're demanding more transparency from the utility.
Hydro One insists the Waasigan transmission line won't drive them from their homes, but the Neighbors on the Line still aren't convinced. The group held a meeting on Wednesday evening at the Cam Community Center, where members discussed concerns and next steps.
We were promised by Hydro One at our previous meeting before the announcement of the kind of declining of our alternative route for their preferred route, that we would be given the criteria, the detailed criteria that they use to determine their routes in the first place. literally looked us in the eye and said, we promise we will get that to you at least a couple of days before we announce it.
Menard insists those details didn't come until after Hydro One had announced that they had been given the green light to begin the second phase of the line's construction starting in 2025. And Menard says he still has no idea how Hydro One will ensure he and his neighbors will remain in their homes. The contract to install the line has been officially awarded to Vallard Construction, but affected residents say Hydro One still hasn't told them the plan to keep them in their homes.
No, other than no one will lose their home. Just a broad blanket statement saying no one will be forced from their home.
But Menard insists those details didn't come until after Hydro One had announced that they had been given the green light to begin the second phase of the line's construction starting in 2025. And Menard says he still has no idea how Hydro One will ensure he and his neighbors will remain in their homes.
I'm very confused as to how they feel they can mitigate and go around and nobody's going to lose their home. They haven't given us any kind of information that would even allude to the fact that it's possible, other than them saying it's possible.
And Menard doesn't believe he can trust Hydro One to keep that promise. Carl Langdon, TBT News.
The doors are now open again at Thunder Bay's Gateway Casino, nearly 3 weeks after all the company's casinos in Ontario were shut down because of a cybersecurity incident. The Thunder Bay Casino was closed on April 16th. The company insisted that no personal data or information was compromised by that cyber threat. The gaming facility just reopened at 6 o'clock this evening, and Gateway officials say they're looking forward to welcoming back both customers and employees. It's part of a phased reopening plan that began at other locations last weekend. Slots and table games are available, as well as limited food and beverage service. Full service is expected to return tomorrow. An exciting opportunity for vinyl record collectors in town. The Friends of the Thunder Bay Public Library have a wide collection of records for sale this weekend at West Arthur Place. The collection was received from a donor in Toronto. It features 200 boxes of music containing 15,000 vinyl records and 2,000 CDs spanning all genres. The items are priced as low as $1 and as high as $65. Volunteer Adrian DiGiuseppe says the Toronto man donated the collection because of his friendship with library CEO Richard Togman.
When he found out about the donation, he kind of figured right away that maybe we could use them in the city, contribute to the spread of these pieces, and gather some money for the public good. We received it, and we didn't ask many questions, and here we are with a store.
When you get something like this, it's lovely to get it out so everybody can enjoy it. It's surprising the number of vinyl collectors I've discovered that are in the city of Thunder Bay. And because of sort of the eclectic nature of this collection, I'm sure there will be some unique finds for some of those collectors out there. But certainly because we are giving the proceeds to the Thunder Bay Public Library, it's a great way to give back to the community.
There was a pre-sale yesterday afternoon, and the main sale will take place on Saturday and Sunday from 10 until 4 p.m. on the main floor at West Arthur Place. Well, residents will once again be able to travel the world in 48 hours this weekend as the much-anticipated Folklore Festival returns as an in-person event for the first time since 2019. Attendees will be able to enjoy international foods, imported wines and beers, and a variety of live entertainment. The event will also feature Shop the World booths and exhibits and a children's area. Admission will be $5 for adults, $3 for seniors and children, $1 for kids aged 4 to 12, and free for children 3 and under. Coordinator Janetti Juma says an event like the Folklore Festival, which brings together cultures, is very important for the community.
We don't have a very kind society, but when I stand here and I'm standing beside people who normally wouldn't be very kind, and they're saying, what an elegant performance. I'm hoping that when they come together as a group and see how rich our country is and how wonderful all of the people are in our country, they will leave this festival and be a bit more kinder.
The event takes place at the Fort William Gardens and the Curling Club, with the doors opening Saturday from noon to 11 p.m. and Sunday from noon to 7. Well, turning to weather now, Fiona, that is double digits that we see behind you, continuing our theme of very slowly moving up with the temperatures?
Literally 1 degree at a time. We had an overnight low of 5 Celsius, so a lot milder than it has been, and a daytime high of 10 under mostly cloudy skies. Winds were a bit brisk at times, 22 to 32 kilometers per hour from the northeast. If we take a look at what's happening to the west, definitely warmer. We're at 13 in Atikokan, 15 by the time you hit Fort Frances and Kenora, and partly sunny skies at this time. Heading to the northwest, well, we've got Red Lake at 14, but it is under cloudy conditions, and then it cools a little bit in Sioux Lookout down to 12, back up to 14 in Armstrong. Greenstone currently mostly cloudy all day actually, but at this time as well at 12. Now along the North Shore, they too are hovering very close to the double digits in Marathon, 10 in Nipigon, and 9 in Sault Ste. Marie under just a few clouds at this time. Now tonight we're going to drop back down to a low of 5, and there's about a 60% chance of a shower or two overnight. And the reason for that is we have a system to the south of the Great Lakes that is going to be pushing in, and we'll get some pop-up showers possible all around the lakeshore because it's going to be developing and pulling in its moisture from the lake. But again, it's going to be one of those hit-and-miss situations for the first part of the weekend, but as the weekend progresses, well, we get a more healthy dose of rain. I'll have more details on that later on in the news hour.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fiona. Well, we are still in a pandemic, but there is some good news. The World Health Organization has officially ended the COVID-19 global emergency. We'll explain what that means right after the break.
COVID has changed our world, and it has changed us. That's the way it should be.